So this week, being WW News Tonight in space, we decided and obviously this show is themed to a lot of space attractions. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy, and we've had Mission Space and Spaceship Earth, and all these different things. There's a lot of space-themed attractions. But what is the best space-themed attraction ever made? We're going to try and figure that out now, because this is the top 7 Disney space attractions of all time. Joining me, of course, we have Nick and Nathan.
That's us.
Still here. And then we have the rest of our crew from the. We let them out of the brig now. There's the evil Space Bee.
All our red shirts.
Colleen.
Oh, and the Space Bee.
The red shirts are here. Yeah.
By the way, we discovered there's a remarkable amount of attractions with bees in them at Disney.
Wasn't there 4?
No, we came up with at least 7 or 8.
No.
Yes.
They did.
Okay.
They did.
We did?
Anyway, back to the panel. There's Eric Wolf, who's now out of his cardboard box. There's other Eric.
Other
We gotta work
right?
on that.
Morton, right?
Morton.
Eric Morton.
We gotta work on
And Pete Carney.
Sivako.
Who?
There you go. All right, let's start with the panel down there. Colleen, ladies first. Why don't you tell us what do you think is the best space attraction of all time?
Okay, so I picked Mission Space. So I will start by saying.
Were you the last to pick one and nothing was left?
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, yes.
No,
that,
I was.
That is. I'm second to last. You all picked, and then I picked, and then Tom will pick. I don't know what Tom's gonna pick. But with Mission Space.
I just want space.
I remember riding it right when it opened and before there were 2 different versions. I get very motion sick, so I don't actually like to ride Mission Space, but I have a whole thing worked out is why I chose this. I don't even really like riding the green one. I still get sick. Oh, the camera's moving. Because we really needed to see our legs.
Actually, I like.
Negative space is bad.
Anyways, but I went to space camp as a kid, and Mission Space is very like the kind of rides you rode at space camp with experiencing the G's. So I picked Mission Space as the top space attraction because of all the space-themed attractions at Disney. It is the most similar to actually going to space.
I remember when you and Kate Capshaw were in space camp together, and you got. Does anybody remember the movie Space Camp?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Am I the
God.
only one?
Oh,
The
yeah,
only other
totally
Cape-
remember that.
The only other Kate Capshaw movie?
No, I have no idea what you're talking
What
about.
are you talking about?
It's a movie.
Yeah,
I mean-
there's a movie Space Camp. Yeah.
Well, I actually went to space camp in real
Yeah,
life.
not as good as the
I don't
movie.
buy it.
Don't they
I don't buy it.
accidentally blast off into space?
Yeah.
In space?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
We didn't do that. That didn't happen.
Oh, that sucks.
I'm
Your camp
still
sounds like
here.
it sucked.
I didn't like the rides because I got motion sick. Just like Mission Space. It's just like space.
Did
I
Ki-
wouldn't go.
Did camp prepare you for tonight?
No.
No.
Nothing could have prepared me for tonight.
No.
That's true.
Or this job. Or Tom.
Or anything.
Yeah. Thanks for feeding everyone's pre-existing notions to me. Thank you.
I live to serve.
Eric the first. Eric Wolf.
All right, I'm not going realistic like Colleen. I'm going more, I'm doing Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin.
Why is that a good space attraction?
It literally has space in the title,
I'm gonna
Tom.
tell you.
You're in space. You're on a.
Why are you Maria now?
You're in space. It's a family ride. Everyone could ride it. Unlike, I'm sorry for going back to you. You're the first one that said anything. But Mission Space, people get sick. People can't ride that ride. Not
But
even
then
the
they
green
can call
one.
Ganondola.
Well, people can't ride it. At least you have something that everyone can ride. Everyone can enjoy. You can get a button at the end. Sometimes.
sticker?
Sometimes. Yeah, now it's sticker.
Sometimes.
It's a sticker now.
Oh, it's a sticker?
Yeah.
Yeah, they got cheap.
Haven't you heard?
Well, I got a shirt. Anyways,
Too many vloggers taught people how to hit the 999,000. They had to switch a sticker.
Galactic Hero. You have to get it. But no, it's just fun, and I feel like everyone at least has enjoys it because everyone at least has like that little competitive edge to them, and you just want to do better than that person next to you. So that's why I picked Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin.
You know, I can say hands down that if we were doing the top 7 worst looking attractions at any Disney park in the world, Buzz Lightyear would be number 1. That is the filthiest, most broken ride I've ever been on at any Disney park in the world.
But
He's so damn positive.
we're doing
I had to think
top
of another
7 space.
We
themed.
are.
Yeah.
So
We are.
You guys
Good
won't
point.
let me do top 7 filthy,
You
busted
think that's
rides.
the dirtiest ride?
I would love
Have
to
you
do.
looked at it?
I looked at
There's
it. I licked it to keep
stains
my immune system
everywhere.
healthy.
There's stains on the seat. There's stains on the ride.
Have you seen this chair I'm sitting in?
That's because you're sitting in
Sitting
it,
in
Pete.
Thank you.
Anyways,
Eric Morton,
The second.
pull the sword from the stone and tell
It's
everyone-
easy now.
I have the power. Tell
So-
everyone your favorite space attraction.
I went with defunct attraction, Horizons, which is probably not only my favorite space attraction, but one of my favorite attractions of all time. It represents peak Epcot to me, I think. And it's a little different that it's not exclusively a space ride. There are multiple space scenes. I mean, it starts with like Jules Verne in like a luxurious space capsule with leather upholstery and a dog and a chicken.
Yeah.
So that's a little weird, but then it gets to really the whole theme of the ride. It's science that's almost feels achievable at the time. You know, you can almost picture what's it like for a family to live in space. And it wasn't, I just blast off and fly around in space. It's not Star Wars or something like that, but it's something where you really, I think back in those days in Epcot, a lot of the best attractions made you feel something or think something, or, it was thoughtfully done. And it was sponsored by GE. That was back when all the rides had a sponsor. And you almost thought, like, they probably did, hey, GE's actually probably working towards making these things happen, and they're speaking from experience, and it made it seem more realistic and relatable. And it was a really long ride, which I kind of like. Nowadays you wait in line for, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour, and you get a ride that's maybe 4 or 5 minutes. And
Way less than
and
Those are the long ones.
and Horizons was like 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
And so it was a good break, air conditioning and stuff, and it was a little interactive because you could choose your ending. And
You could pick space.
what's
Yeah.
that?
You could pick space.
Yeah, pick space. And just an aside, I remember, I don't know if you guys have seen those videos of the guys that broke in or snuck off the ride.
Hoot and cheek,
It's,
yeah.
it's crazy, but they ran around and I don't know, spent hours there at times, and it was just a ride that always sparked my imagination. So, I vote for Horizons.
I was on Living with the Land the other day, and I heard the people behind me at the end go, "This is a really long ride." And for a moment I was like, it used to not be. Like, these were all the same length in this park. It's true. Like, everything's short. There are no like long meandering rides, and I think that's why when I went to Japan, I think the Sinbad ride became one of my favorites because it is 13 to 17 minutes depending on the boat speed that day. I mean, it's long and they're big scenes, and
Well, and
it
they
just
wonder why
felt
the
like old stuff.
yeah, they wonder why the park's crowded. It's like because everyone's coming out of like attractions every
Yeah,
3
so
minutes.
quick,
Like
yeah.
You don't
it's
have
not,
a 17-minute
keep
boat
in
ride
mind
that
too, that
takes
is the way
4,000
the world
people.
is going. Is attention spans are shrinking.
People will like it.
Yeah,
No,
people
I'm
like
not.
stuff.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but if you watch a long ride, let's say a Living with the Lamb, which I love personally, not me,
Right.
But watch as the ride progresses, how many cell phones might come out and get checked.
well, those
towards the end
people
of
are
the ride.
broken. So
Well,
that's
I'm just saying
what
it's
it
the
is.
way the world may be moving. I love those rides. People say, "What's your favorite ride at Magic Kingdom?" And I say, probably Splash, because it's a 10.5-minute ride that's constantly fun and exciting for me. It's worth the wait. I like those long rides. I like the great movie rides. I liked the old tram ride when it was at Hollywood Studios. So, like, I'm a big fan of the long meandering ride. And I'm all about that. It was a great choice.
What's our top 7 again?
Long meandering rides.
Long
the
meandering
top 7
ride.
long
But
meandering rides.
I like Eric's point about the
Which Eric?
second Eric who just
Okay,
went.
Eric second.
Um,
Okay.
like also about it being obtainable. Like none of those scenes were like, oh my god, in the future we're gonna be able to blast through rockets and fast. No, the space scene was like the kid lost his shoe. His shoe floated away. And
Yeah.
Mom, what if I just float away? And like it was just like cute scenes of like what our life would be if we lived in the ocean or in space or wherever.
Yeah.
It was a very thoughtful attraction. Yeah. But anyway, Pete, go ahead.
A great choice, Eric II, but not the best choice.
Oh God.
When I say what is your top space attraction, everyone immediately will say it together: Space Motherfriggin' Mountain. That's right. This is the original. We're doing Walt Disney World. This is the Space Mountain of all Space Mountains. This is the original, opening in January of '75. It is still a classic. Only had a couple of redos to change the cars out and everything else. Also, believe it or not, a GE attraction. It was actually sponsored by RCA, which was a subsidiary
the way.
of GE. It was a subsidiary of GE, and then they had to kind of cut it loose because of the whole monopoly thing. But another GE ride. Another ride, even though it opened in '75, that Walt had his hands in. He was talking about doing a ride like this after the success of the Matterhorn bobsleds in Disneyland. He wanted a space ride. He was talking about more thrills. Sadly, we all know what happened with Walt. But once Walt Disney World opened up in the early '70s, October 1st, '71, they were looking for a thrill ride. Space Mountain came in, and obviously, as we know, still to this day, it holds wait times of over an hour. It is a classic. A great thrill ride, even though you only peak between 28 to 35 miles an hour, and that's debated on several different websites and attractions. Super thrilling, super fun for all ages. Not the longest of rides, but definitely longer in our day and age, a little over 2.5 minutes. You have the 2 tracks, you have the different variations of it around the planet. It is the space attraction of all space attractions. I think it's the mother of them all. Everyone has a nostalgia factor going to it to the first time they rode it. It's still fun as an adult. It is the best ride. It is Tomorrowland. Without Space Mountain, what would Tomorrowland be? When you first pull up, especially here in Orlando, almost before you see the castle, whether you're on a bus or heading down the road, you see Space Mountain, and you get excited. It's just, and then even other rides play around it. People rush the People Mover to try and see it with the lights on, and it's got this excitement around it, and it's been around longer than I think everyone in the studio has been alive, which really speaks to the ride. So, my
Space
pick
Mountain.
is Space Mountain at the Magic Kingdom.
Nathan,
Yes.
you took the one I wanted, but go ahead.
Yay! I ruined Tom's day. I'm the Twitter in this room. Yeah, so my pick was Alien Encounter, extraterrestrial
Ugh.
alien encounter. The reason for this being is it's very space-oriented. In fact, we are transporting things from space, multiple locations. But I love this. I love this attraction because it does something very simple, but by doing something very simple, it also does something very revolutionary. It took over a space that really you couldn't do much with. I mean, before there were other space attractions in there, and you just sort of stared at a thing in the middle, and you're like, oh, I guess we're moving. Rumble, rumble. And it really reinvented what that space could do. And it is not only an animatronic show, it's weirdly enough, it's like the only, there's like Tiki Room, it's like a terror Tiki Room. It's an animatronic show, but the thing that's crazy is the animatronics only show up so much. The cool thing about the entire experience is they're using your own senses against you. And the mere fact that they can kind of create terror with very, little space. They don't have a lot of space, and it's just about turning the lights off and really freaking you out. And then amplifying all of that. I mean, it's a legendary ride. We still talk about it today, and there's a whole cabinet over there of stuff from it
There
because
is a
it's
25th anniversary, large 25th anniversary display right here at the office. You can come see if you come to the show.
It's maybe it wasn't everyone's favorite, but I think at the same time it was super unique. I don't know. I can't name another ride that was like an audio experience. I mean, it sounds dangerous, but
This is the original, it was very cutting edge at the time.
right. It's doing something I think fascinating because it's basic. It's doing something so basic, but also so profound by using your senses against you. And it's mixing Tomorrowland stuff, technology, and space travel, because technically transportation, transporting someone is space travel, and aliens. So how can you go wrong with, and robots? How can you go wrong with all
What
that
a great
space?
story, like Evil Corporation.
Yeah,
And
it's
going
literally
against
about
rides
Disney.
Are like the cute character's the bad guy, so we make the cute character the bad guy, then we fry him, and it's supposed to be funny and like
Yeah.
a really fun and a super interesting development history. I love probably my favorite part about it. Nick, super predictable. Go ahead.
Well, I had to go with Rise of the Resistance. It was an easy choice for me. It was, before Rise, if we did this category, it would have been a much harder pick. I might have gone with something like Alien Adventure or something, or
Alien Adventure.
Encounter.
It's that ride. It's
Alien
that
Adventure.
theater when you go in, and then Ben Franklin's like, "Oh no, there's an alien!"
And that would be
Which, by the way,
amazing.
I would watch that.
That'd be my dream come true.
Yeah, Alien
No,
Adventure.
but it was
By
easy
his
to
own
pick Rise.
admission, you could burst circles around his chest.
Fantastic. Now I want that.
Two space pods on their way.
Look, as a kid, I watched Star Wars and dreamed of like these space battles, and to have an attraction that puts me inside like one of those space battles, and like so realistically, so like it evokes so many emotions as you go through that attraction. The recruitment process, the getting on the transporter, the walking out into the hangar bay on the Star Destroyer, and like just like the how huge it is and how kind of empty it is, and the stormtroopers staring you down, and like to be able to walk through that and be a part of that is just kind of awe-inspiring. The way they were able to pull that off with all the different type of ride techniques they used, and getting on and off the rides. Talk about a long experience. I mean, it is a very I don't know how many minutes the ride.
Sadly,
actually
only 10
turns out
people
to
can
be.
ride it a day, but yeah, it's a long experience.
Okay, but it is an amazing experience, and they did such a perfect job of putting you in the story. It's really it's a great way of storytelling, because I think it's a fantastic story from start to end. It really does have a beginning, middle, and end. And you're really put in the middle of a space battle. I mean, it's going on around you, and you're in the middle of it. You're trying to escape the ship. Everything they did about it was perfect. It exceeded my expectations.
We're closing. We're
Losing windows.
Well,
Uh-oh.
there was a leak, so it closed.
Yeah.
Walled itself up.
So it was really a no-brainer for me. I mean, just the ride technology, the way, the storytelling and everything, and yeah, how to go with Rise.
Even though I went last and people picked a lot of ones that I would have picked, there were a lot of, I thought, really good options remaining.
Yeah.
I thought about Star Tours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really revolutionized the way you could do a space ride, because if you have a projection thing and you shake people around, it can feel like you're going into space. But I thought, because we're specifically talking about space, I didn't want to get into the fantasy thing. I wanted the origins of Tomorrowland and the origins of space attractions all begins with Rocket to the Moon. It all begins with Rocket to the Moon, Flight to the Moon, and Mission to Mars. I'm going to put those three together. So the Tomorrowland Rocket attraction.
You can put three attractions together.
They're very similar.
Yeah, they're basically
They're
the same
mostly
thing.
film changes. But the original Tomorrowland film rides, because you have to think about this. In 1955, people went to Disneyland, sat in a room, and it felt like they were blasting off into space. We did not land on the moon until, what, 1969, right? And so, like, that's still many years away at that point. And then on top of that, 1967, it's a shame that we landed on the moon so soon after the ride opened, because I think
Shame that we landed on
no,
the moon.
because I think Flight to the Moon would have been an attraction that stayed a lot longer
Yeah.
than it did, because it opened with New Tomorrowland in '67 at Disneyland, but then it was irrelevant by the early '70s because we had been to the moon. People were like, "Oh,
And that's when
we've
to-
done
Damn
that."
you,
So in
NASA!
1976, they overlaid it
Yeah.
as Mission to Mars. They just changed the destination because they're like, "Well, we can't send people to the moon. People have seen people go."
That's
to the
when
moon."
people like cared about Tomorrowland theming. It was like, well, It's not tomorrow
it's
anymore.
not the
Put it in
future anymore.
spaceship,
We've been there.
Yeah.
And so, but this is the original experience, and people's minds were blown in the 50s when they sat in that room and it felt like they were going, out into space. The idea of putting, I don't know how much it had been done at that time. I don't have any knowledge how many people had ever done projections on the floor and projections on the ceiling with the theater in the round. I don't know that had ever been done before in any other venue.
Kind of like what we did for our audience tonight. Made them feel like they were actually in space.
Sure. But I don't know that anyone had ever done anything like that. And I think we lose sight of it because its lifespan was so short. And I think obviously we've gone way beyond that with, starting with Star Tours and going to Mission Space. We've really, really found ways to truly make it feel like
I
you're
mean,
going
Mission
into
Space is 100% the
as close to the real things you get
grandson
without
of-
dying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So I think it's important. I think it's important, at least in this segment. I think for the sake of its heritage, I think the Tomorrowland, mission rides are important to be on this list. So there you go.
So where do we begin?
So yeah, so we have our 7. We have Rise of the Resistance, Alien Encounter, Space Mountain, Buzz Lightyear, Horizons, Mission Space, and the Flight to the Moon, Mission to Mars, Rocket to the Moon.
I think we can put Buzz last.
Buzz
I
last.
think so.
Because these are
Sorry, Eric.
space attractions, right? I don't.
No, I consider it a
No
space
offense,
attraction.
Eric, but
No, no, no.
it
If
is.
only
It
you
has
picked a
space in the
cleaner
name.
attraction.
Hey,
Not even the best Toy Story shooter.
That's the problem.
no,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the other ones are
That's all right.
on
Millennium
space
Falcon's the
themed.
3rd best Star Wars ride in Hollywood studios. So we put is Buzz at 7. Is that a consensus?
I think so.
That's all right,
Yeah.
space, right?
Agrees. Aye.
Everyone's fine with that.
Yeah.
All right, that's number 7. What do we want at number 6?
What's the rest? Say them again.
Rise, Alien Encounter, Space Mountain, Horizons, Mission Space, Flight to the Moon,
Mission
to Mars.
Space.
Alien Encounter.
Can I make a case for Rise of the Resistance?
Sure,
No.
make a case.
That's not real space.
I'm in the
I
space
actually-
battle.
Whoa,
I
whoa.
Okay,
take a
I
transport on
agree
the
with
Star
Tom though,
Destroyer.
which never happens. Because it's not really about space. Space isn't the point. Star Wars takes place in space, but it's like an epic, story.
But any
that
movie
could
on
take
Earth
place
then
anywhere.
takes place in space.
Wait
Yeah.
a minute.
Something.
Wait
Are
a
you
minute.
saying that the other attractions all are an actual space?
Wait a minute. There's something we've not
The
talked
ones
about.
left
Wait.
are about man traveling into
Yeah.
space, like man from Earth traveling
here's the
to
thing.
space for the most
Yeah.
part.
Here's the thing.
Alien
Here's the thing we've not
Encounter,
talked
kind of,
about. This
but-
just solves it. You never leave the atmosphere. It's an atmosphere ride.
If
'Cause
that's
that
the case,
Starship-
Right, but the pre-show
here's
you
another
did.
crazy concept.
Well-
Has anyone actually seen an alien?
Okay, see, this is actually why Pete's Silly Science Show was created, is to try to give him an opportunity to like yell
get it out?
things.
Have you seen yourself
earlier?
right now?
Yes.
Here,
Well,
let me.
no, I can't really see.
What were the? Okay, we had.
I'm okay with Rise there as a space
Rise,
attraction.
Alien Encounter, Space Mountain, Horizon, Mission Space, and then the theater.
If we're just rating them on the space attraction and
Because
not
it's
an
it's-
attraction.
What is
Yeah.
the best space?
Space attraction, not attraction, not like
Yeah.
thrill or
Right.
like how much
Yeah.
we love it. If the best space attraction, I would tend to agree. There's a lot of good space.
It's not
attractions
really
on that
about
list.
space. It's about being
Yeah.
in a
But-
star destroyer.
My bargaining chip would be that
in
Alien Encounter
space.
has to go next after this.
Nah.
You're probably right. I don't disagree.
Okay, so Rise of the Resistance at 6.
yes.
Yeah.
Aye for me.
Aye.
7.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
6, yes.
Hey Nick, remember that time I made Rise of the Resistance number 6?
Oof. Yeah. Oh,
But
that's
in fairness,
ridiculous.
Pete makes a point. I think Alien Encounter has to be the next to go.
Let me counterpoint that.
Why?
Film
Why?
professor.
What's the
It
point
is
behind
technically
that?
it's about a company
Right.
that has now, because we're evolving technologies on Earth. This company has come to Earth to try and improve our technology.
You know, that's a good point. Technically, you
it's about
don't.
space teleportation.
But you don't technically go into space.
You don't.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
a good
think-
point.
I think
I
it's
don't
gotta
like
go next.
it.
It doesn't have to for that reason. Like
Well,
you guys
the
are
rest
getting
of the
so
list. So that
would
technical
be
on
6 then?
this.
The other remaining attractions,
Like-
when I think
I
of
like
space
that.
attractions, actually come to mind. Like I don't know that Rise and Alien and Buzz did. For
Come
me.
on, I mean, Alien Encounter is definitely like you don't have aliens if you're not talking about space.
But
I
if
mean,
It's true.
On that merit, shouldn't it be on 6? Because at least Rise is in space.
Is it a space attraction?
This is a very good point. And I don't mind that if that needs to be the case.
I think you guys are being so technical about this. Let's
But I'm thinking if someone asks me, oh, what space attraction do you like? Those three don't even come into the conversation.
Like, let's just say, like,
wouldn't
you're
even
walking
think
through the
of them
park
as
and someone
space
says, name
attractions.
3 space attractions. None of those come
Like
to your
my
mind
kids
first.
into NASA, what should we do at Disney World? I'm
Yeah.
not going to name.
Oh, you got to do Alien Encounter,
It would
Rise
be
of the
like
Resistance, and,
Mission Space,
Right.
Space Mountain. Like those are even like Astro Orbiter would come to mind before those.
So is the Millennium Falcon a space attraction?
No.
Well, no one picked that, so it doesn't
More
matter.
so than Rise.
We go
But
in
no
the
one likes
hyperdrive through space.
That's fair,
Like,
but
you-
it's not on here.
Okay.
Also, it's a pretend space. It doesn't even take
That's
place in
the
real
thing.
space.
I think it's because it's pretend. So all of our ones so far are pretend space. Buzz Lightyear's pretend
Well,
space.
then Horizon's
space.
pretend space.
It's not. It's man in space.
Yeah.
It's a space.
It's about Jules Verne starting to think about how would man get to the moon.
Well,
And
listen,
we know- and
these
Alpha
are
Centauri
going
is
at
real.
5 and 6. Let me upset Tom for 4.
Yeah, we're running out of time. Could we just
Yeah.
put it at 5? Are
Yeah,
we okay with that?
that's
Alien
fine.
Encounter
I think we
5?
got to put Tom's 3 picks next, and he made some great
Well,
points.
definitely. Like I thought that should have been at 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think it was a good.
But they
attempt.
aren't. Space attractions at Disney parks begin with these.
So
Yeah,
they
but-
improved
Yeah,
much
they- yeah.
more since then.
I think-
I mean, they're supposed to.
Good,
Okay, in
and
that
they
case,
did,
we can
and they're
talk about
better.
Awesome
and
Planet.
so
I'm
they
okay
deserve
with
to
it
be
at 4.
higher.
I just think like knocking them is unfair.
Have you seen Awesome Planet?
I'm not
It takes
knocking
place in
them.
space.
Space real
Are you
estate.
really just fighting for one more spot? What would you put
No, I
behind
said
yours?
4 is fine.
Hey,
He's
hey,
the one who's like, it should be behind Rise.
hey, Eric the second, move the mic to your right. Thank you. That'll help Pete a lot.
I aimed it at him. I told everyone, don't give me a mic.
Dude, I could
So
just
number
hold
4, my
probably
pick,
smart.
the space theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's fine.
All right, there's 3 left.
What do we
Space Mountain, Horizons, Mission Space.
You see the least amount of space in Space Mountain.
I would say when it takes place
Wow.
in space.
Mission
You guys are
Space
judging
is
this
so
really-
hated. I think it's
You know,
gotta
that's
be
true.
I would say
Mission Space is the biggest failure of all 3 of those. Not that I
Yeah.
dislike
It's
it.
the
It's a novel
closest-
concept. It didn't work.
But it is the
Closest to
closest to
space.
real space.
But
Yeah,
it
if we're talking
didn't
about
work.
that.
I am the
No, I
only
agree.
one who loves Mission Space. Mission Space
I
should
don't
be
hate
number
Mission
1.
Space.
This is the one where I literally go to
But
space.
people
to
don't
space.
like it.
no, but
Yeah, but
you go to space.
I
and
think
Space
they
Mountain.
made it worse than the refurb too.
I don't think it's best space
I-
attraction
So
I-
how
people
can
like.
you
I
keep
wanna say
changing the
Horizon's
criteria
3.
here?
I'm sorry,
You
Eric.
say
No,
it's
I
the
think
We
we're
have
worst.
3
You
space
say it's the
attractions
worst
left then.
attraction here,
if we're,
and
if
yet
we're married, if we're
Nick,
no
married-
one likes
Nick,
it.
I'll let
The
you
biggest
survive
Of
with
the
one or
3
two,
left,
But if we're talking about like in space, Space Mountain, you take a rocket to space, and Mission Space, you take a rocket to space. I know everyone loves Horizons, but Horizons is not all about space.
that's fair.
So
We also got
top
sea and
2
land.
would be both taking place in space.
I think that's reasonable.
I think at
Horizon's
this
about
point,
The
living
knock
in
on those
space,
two,
but
though,
that's not
is-
a bad point.
Those
Yeah.
are both
We have to-
attractions that not all people can do. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that just can't do Mission Space. Well, yeah. That's true.
Oh my God.
based on the criteria everyone other than me is using, we have to put Mission Space and Space Mountain
The
1 and
problem
2.
is,
We
you're
have
still
to.
wearing the helmet, and it's very hard to take you seriously.
Listen, Mork.
All right, I'm gonna say Horizons 3, but I know I'm gonna get blasted.
No, it has
No,
to be 3.
No, I
I
think
kind
he's
of
right.
agree.
So,
I'm on
yeah.
board with that reasoning.
Okay.
That's fair. Horizons 3. Space Mountain is legendary. I'm not
doubt.
putting Mission Space over Space
I-
Mountain
I think
in the
Space-
space attraction category.
Yeah.
Space Mountain, I think, is number 1. I mean, I don't think that that's.
It's
Up for
conventional,
debate.
but it's also true.
Yeah.
I don't really love the Mission Space is even 2, but from this criteria,
But space
It's just
attraction-
kind of been sneaking by.
It is the
Yeah.
closest thing to the real experience.
Yes, it
I
is.
like it, but no one ever wants to do it, so I never do.
I will do it
Because
every
I-
day with
I
you.
haven't
We-
done
look,
it nowhere
look.
near.
Love
Here's
that
the thing.
Gotta go.
Here's the
We
thing.
should go film one.
They decided to do 2 things almost simultaneously. 1, build a space attraction that feels exactly like you're getting the G-forces from space. And 2, add a bunch of food to the park and make it a festival center, basically. Those 2 things do not mix. And because of that, it's really difficult, I think, for people
Mix
to want
is
to go
better
on
than
it.
half the stuff they're
I
adding
think ever
now.
since the lady from Suits took over for Gary Sinise, I only did it maybe
The
one.
lady
hate
from
that.
Firefly,
She
thank
does
you
a
very
terrible
much.
job.
Nah.
She's
sucks.
All right,
I
so
hate
So we have
we're
to
all
vote.
okay with.
Why are you
No,
yelling?
No. We have to vote. Let's vote. So
This is my tradition.
Mission-
Pete,
want Space
why are
Mountain
you
as
yelling?
okay.
Space Mountain number 1.
Space Mountain number 1.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
It's
Tyler.
over. So the count of the top 7 space attractions, kind of. The top 7. This is a dumb list. The top 7 space
You
attractions.
made it dumb
of
based
all
on your
time.
criteria.
What else are we gonna do? It's a space show.
The criteria.
Top
was
7
weird.
space restaurants. There's 1. It's not even open.
Read
it
the
should
list.
open today. It's the reason we did this. They could open. We're doing it. 2:20. Here we are. Number 7, Buzz Lightyear Space Rangers. Number 6, Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance. Number 5, The Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. Number 4, The Rocket to the Moon, Flight to the Moon, Mission to Mars. Number 3, Horizons. Number 2, Mission Space. And number 1, Space Mountain.
Woo!
Very good.